This podcast is brought to you by Voice and Vision, bringing help, hope, and healing to individuals, families, and communities affected by mental illness, addictions, and disabilities in southeastern Pennsylvania. Financial support for this podcast is provided by a Veterans Trust Fund grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Military and Veterans Affairs.
Welcome to Untold Valor, a podcast with a unique focus on veterans, featuring stories of courage, recovery, perseverance, and strength. Listen to hear veterans share their perspectives on what it's like to battle mental health challenges, combat addictions, and overcome other adversities unique to those who have served.
Welcome into another edition of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Untold Valor, where we share stories and really kind of bring a community together of veterans and folks who have served and talk about the things that need to be discussed to help other veterans find their way to and through. And so this week, we're very happy to have a special guest as well. Dr. John Taylor is going to be joining us. He's going to spend some time sharing his story with us as well. Dr. John, welcome in. Thanks for coming on to the podcast. So glad to have you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate being here.
Absolutely. So I see we got a couple of, we got some alphabet soup at the end of the name there. We got DD, MED, BS. So you've certainly done lots of things in your life.
Yeah, I try.
Well, you're very modest, but I tell you what we usually do here is we talk about, just kind of get started getting to know you a little bit. So tell us about your military background, and just kind of, just get to know you a little bit.
Okay, no problem. Simplified to all my Marines out there, I am a jarhead. I served from 91 to 99. I also went into the Virginia Air National Guard, Air Force Reserve, where I served as a public health tech. In Virginia. I think I served a total of between 11, 13 years, got awarded somewhat and so on. And, I pretty much enjoyed my military career, and I also enjoy, serving my country and communities. It's a lot to be said with that the sacrifice any veteran has made to serve their country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And are you a chaplain as well, sir?
I was a minister, not
Okay.
a chaplain. I ministered in a church, a couple of churches, and I did music in the church as well as preaching on the pulpit. But, I didn't do the chaplain work like going out to prisons and stuff like that. I pretty much was like in the church.
Gotcha. Okay. And so a lot of what we do on here is just talk about, the things that happened during your service, if there was some issues that you may have had personally, where you want to share some stories with other veterans, because obviously a lot of times that winds up being the struggle, right? For so many that, come back and they've served their time and they've served our country and so on and so forth. If you start to have an issue, it's very hard. I think in our society in general, it's been very hard for years to just say, hey, something's not right and I need some help, right? And often that's even more compounded for our veterans and our service folks, because there's kind of that culture a little bit of not asking. My daughter's in the Navy currently, and it still exists a little bit. Not as bad. It's definitely better now than maybe it was, a few years back. But if you can share some stories or have a personal experience where find a way to help others who are maybe struggling with finding that need or that way, that release to say, hey, I need help. How do I do that?
Well, we got something in common. I had two sons, older sons. I have three sons, actually, but my two sons are in the military, one in the Army, one in the United States Marine. One followed my footsteps, and the other one, he became a military person himself. He's in the Army. I don't hold that against him. But anyway, one of the biggest complaints I hear out of a lot of veterans is, trying to get those benefits. Right now, I'm service connected and still trying to increase my benefits and so on. But I got to tell you, any veteran out there, it's worth standing in the long lines. It's worth the all-day adventure of being at the VA, and it's definitely worth sitting down and filling out the paperwork, because there's a lot of services out there for us veterans, and there's a lot of compensation after service for you if you are willing to sit down with counselors and case managers, or even a lawyer for that matter, about your situations and what you've done in the military. Right now, I'm service connected because I lost a lot of my hearing while serving, and I'm connected that way. There's other things I'm trying to get connected in, which is the PTSD side. But I wasn't diagnosed with PTSD till after I left, so that's the issue sometimes with mental health. The military would say, "Oh well, you wasn't diagnosed until like almost 10 years after you got out." Well, I just wanted to start talking about it. So
Right.
obviously,
Yeah.
when I got out, I was a little cocky. I was a little kind of showing off a little bit. So I didn't think I had any issues until life really bogged me down, and I realized, there's a lot going on in my head that I didn't really think
Mm-hmm.
that was going on or accounted for. But it's always a issue with the VA visit. If it didn't happen in service, how did they know that is a real legit situation?
Yeah.
Um,
Great point.
but that's what makes it resourceful on the veteran end to talk to someone legally or talk to a case manager, and they're all over the place. So if I encourage veterans to go to the VA to talk to case managers, go to different satellites such as the VFW, join the American Legions, the Marine Corps League, all these institutions will fight for you. And you might have to put a little volunteer work in, but the VFWs is very good. The American Legions is very good. The Marine Corps League is very good for those who served in the Corps. Go out and talk to people, and don't forget, you're not the only one who served. There are all types of veterans out there that served in war or had issues while they were on active duty
Mm-hmm.
and serving. So if you get with these people and talk, you find out it's a great camaraderie ship, number one. But the stories are not too far fetched or too far behind that you can't relate.
No,
And I bumped into
yeah.
so many veterans. I joined the Marine Corps League. I'm also in the American Legion, and these things help out because there are a lot of people that are in these organizations and so on that will look out for you. Like when I joined the Wounded Warrior program, when I was in the Wounded Warrior program, they found a lot of assistance that could help me mentally and financially. Because one of the things that happens to a lot of veterans, they feel like nobody understands and they give up real quick.
Right. Right.
Because when you was when you was in service, everything was handed. You didn't have to ask. Then when you get out, you forget that you have to ask.
Yeah.
Because if you don't ask, you don't know this stuff is out there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and often when veterans struggle, like my best friend, I've talked about him quite often here on the show. When he first started dealing with his issues, he certainly turned to alcohol because it was just an easier release for him. And, and many of the folks we've had on here, same way, right?
Right, definitely. A lot of veterans do suffer from alcoholism. I see it all the time. When you go to the American Legions, you can see a lot of veterans who, they consult with the bottle,
yeah,
so
yeah.
to speak. And a lot of them are single. They're not married.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't know a good woman. I mean, I'm just talking about the men, not the women, even though women are veterans too.
Right.
But a lot of the men, they're lonely. And I met female veterans, and they seem to have it together. They seem to have gotten their benefits. They seem to be moving on with their life. But it's the men veterans that seem to be stagnated or homeless or have severe mental illnesses. So I don't know what the correlation between them getting out versus why they serve their time. But
Dr. John, maybe some of that is that kind of macho thing that's attached to it. We kind of was talking about asking for help sometimes is very hard for men to do in our society, period.
Right. Because women are not afraid to ask for help. If they need
absolutely.
Help, ask for it. And if they know, and they're very resourceful, I will say a lot of women are very resourceful. So if they know something's out there, they're going to go find it. Where the men are, like you said, with the, I could do this, I'm a man, I don't need help.
Right.
I didn't feel that way. And I'm going to encourage all male veterans not to feel that way. Go get what is deserving of you. You've worked it. You did it. You struggled. You might have an injury here now, and you don't know what's in your service record book that it qualifies you for service connection.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I was noticing, Dr. John, as I was going through this a little bit on your bio here, that you've got an indie label, you're a music producer, and you said you had a lot of hearing loss due to your time in service. I imagine that's obviously it's a frustration as a musician myself, and so that's a demon you're wrestling with as well, right? Because that's a passion, that's part of your soul.
That's a very strong passion of mine.
Right.
And I wear hearing aids. The hearing aids help.
But it's an easy way to kind of say, this is something that's part of my soul and it's taken away from me. And I think that's what starts to happen. We kind of start to feel lost a little bit.
Well, the hearing part is detrimental, but what really almost took my passion for music away was I was in a very bad car accident 2018 where I broke my neck. I literally broke my neck.
Oh, geez.
and it messed up my hands, it messed up my spine and everything. But I will say, because I am a Marine, I was very resilient about it. Because one thing about the Marine Corps is get up, no matter what.
Right.
Pain is weakness leaving the body. We don't want to hear that. Get the job done. If you want to play that piano, you know how to do it, so do it.
Mm.
If you got the ability to do it, do it. And I carried that mentality since I was 19 years old, and I'm 51 now.
Did you go in for physical therapy after the
I
accident?
did PT, I did
Yeah.
OT, I did it all.
Yeah.
I just finished PT and OT February of this year. I get injections in my ankle and I get injections in my back. But one of the things I really am grateful for is when I go to the VA, I get the service. Now, sometimes you may have to go in that back room and talk to the lead people and say, hey, I don't like what these nurses and these doctors are doing. But that's your fight. And that's your right, because it's your body and no one can tell you what you're going through or how you're going through it, but you.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, the doctors are professional and the nurses are professional. They can, they can conclude certain diagnoses, or, they can conclude what medications you need and so
Right.
on. Because, I do have PTSD and I do have generalized anxiety disorder. And I do see my therapist and I do see my psychiatrist. But the thing about for me is I am going to utilize the services before me. And I encourage all veterans to do that. But I will say, if you're a veteran out there and you're not attached to a VSO or VFW or, international clubs or American Legions, or if you're a Marine, join the Marine Corps League, you're missing out. There's people like me and other people. I'm the junior vice commandant of the Marine Corps League. I'm also the public affairs officer for the state of Pennsylvania for the Marine Corps League. I push these issues. Veterans, go get yourself checked out. If you don't have medical insurance, you got the right to have the VA to give you medical insurance, and you're going to have medical insurance till the day you die.
Yeah.
It makes no sense for a veteran to be out here with no medical insurance because you're not working.
Yeah, and there's so many resources.
A whole lot out there. It's just so much out there, Mark, for veterans. And I know that a lot of veterans are not taking advantage of this, especially the male ones, especially men veterans. They're not taking advantage of a lot of stuff that's out there.
Yeah, and even our sponsor of our podcast here, the folks at Voice and Vision Inc. and Compeer and Compeer Core, they do such a great job in that same aspect. And so I'll circle it back around to that a little bit, because you talked about, just asking for help or just meeting with other veterans and people who have walked in the same type of shoes, right? Walked the same kind of mile, if you will. And they do a great job of pairing folks together and finding mentors. And really, sometimes it's just having someone who, for lack of a better term, looks like you, right? Kind of thing. Right. So it's sitting down and having a conversation.
Yeah, well, Mark, it's a lot of stuff out there. Like I keep reiterating that. Even at CareerLink, they have a separate department just for veterans.
Yeah.
If you go down to 4th Street, 4th and Race, there's the Veteran Multicultural Center. They're helping veterans get jobs. They're helping veterans get their benefits. They're helping veterans do things, but it's up to the veteran to go get this done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, another thing I would tell veterans to do: if you're a veteran, register. I don't care what county you live in, what city you live in, register as a veteran. If you don't know how to do that, you go down to the local city hall. If you're in Delaware County, it's in Media. If you are where I'm at, which is Chester County, I live in Paoli. It's not too far from the police station, and I can't say the name of this place. It's the weirdest name ever, so I got to leave it alone.
That's okay.
But Philadelphia is the same way. You just go down there, you register as a veteran. Now, why is it important to register as a veteran? Because we know you're out there. You're going to get letters from all kinds of people saying, hey, what do you need? What do you need help with? Or do you need help? Or can you help? If you don't need the help, can you help?
And I noticed on your bio here that you've also been an educator, 17 years as an educator.
For 19 years.
Yeah, and counseling was even on that, and so
I taught special ed, and I also taught United States history, government, and world history in high schools.
I think what struck me about that, Dr. John, is the fact that you had some experience in psychotherapy and counseling as an educator, and yet you're also able to recognize, hey, I need some help too, right? Sometimes we
all need help. Nobody's above that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you can sit down with the most professional person and talk to them and find out they got some issues somewhere in their life. Nobody's perfect. You can, it's sometimes the painter paints everybody's house beautifully. And when you go to their house, you're like, why you don't paint your own house? It looks look right in here. They take care of everybody else and don't take care of themselves.
Yeah. No, that's
You
a
know,
great
and
point.
I can't be that person. I love me too much.
Yeah. You know what? That's a great message, too. Sometimes that's hard for folks, right? I mean, we're struggling with whatever demons we've got going on. And sometimes you got to inward reflect and say, hey, I'm worth fixing this, right? I'm worth fixing whatever's
Right,
going on and reach out and get some
right.
help, whatever that
I,
looks like.
right. I have three beautiful sons, and I call them beautiful because they're my babies, and I raised them, and with the help of the Most High, I got them where they need to be. But I couldn't do that if I didn't have support from everything that supported me.
Yeah.
Nobody does it on their own. You got to have support,
Yeah. And it doesn't
and
mean you're
when you
less. It doesn't
realize
mean you're
that.
weak. Yep.
Yeah, and when you realize that, it's not a hard fight. Like, I don't know how some veterans didn't realize that everything about them while they were in the military was supportive. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was part of FSSG, which is Force Service Support Group. I was a support to infantry.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that whatever they needed comm-wise, communication-wise, it was my job to get that done for them. Then who supported us? Motor T, the Chow Hall, and stuff like that, the Navy Corpsmen. It's a universe of support. How do some veterans lose that mindset when they get out? I tell you how. Mental health is real.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to identify your triggers so you can sit down and talk to somebody. And I encourage it. I am a former psychotherapist, but I go see a psychotherapist. Why? Because I'm not perfect.
Mm. That's a powerful message right there. Well, Dr. John, I mean, you know, you've done such a great job already talking about getting help, but that's usually kind of how I wrap this thing up. Is there anything else that I might have missed that you'd like to share with us, or just kind of an overall thought or message from your time in the service and after the service, and just for others who might be listening? Because hopefully we've reached a few veterans through this podcast who've said, hey, you know what, it is time for me to make that change or time for me to make
Right.
that move. So anything you'd like to share?
Right. Well, I'll go back to the need for veterans to seek other veterans, such as veteran organizations. There are a lot of them out there. There's the American Legion, there's the VSWs, there's the VSOs, there's the VMCs. I'm throwing out all these acronyms, but these places are awesome. And when I got attached to the Marine Corps League, it lifted my soul, literally, made me feel better
That's amazing.
person because there's others like me. There's others out there who has similar problems. And because when you think that you're the only one, you're driving yourself to be a lost cause. And I'm not meaning that to be bad, but come on, let's face the reality. Nobody goes through anything by themselves. So if you're going through something, there's probably another person somewhere just like you facing that same unappreciative situation that you're going through. Like for me, when I got into the American Legion, I realized that there's a whole lot of Vietnam veterans, not just Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan veterans, but a whole lot of Vietnam veterans who weren't being serviced, but they were getting service through the American Legion. And that's how they developed better relationships and they were able to serve the community that they lived in. That's
Yeah.
what a lot of the stuff I'm saying I learned from. I learned a lot of the stuff from the Marine Corps League. I also joined a military fraternity called Mu Beta Phi, Military Fraternity Incorporated. Nothing but veterans, male and female veterans. I started talking to a lot of female veterans, and they were the ones that really said, this is what you apply for, this is what you get, that form is called this, and then you need your DD 214 for everything. And let's face it, after 20 years without being out of the service, you don't remember everything about paperwork. So you
Right.
forget what the DD 14 means. So, that's one of the first things these organizations do for you. They order a copy of your DD 214 because without that, you're not proving that you was a serviceman or a servicewoman.
Yeah.
So get a hold of that. Get a hold of your DD 214. And if you want to do it even better for yourself, get a copy of your SRB, your service record book. It's entitled to you. So 3 things I let the veterans know: join a military organization, help yourself get service connected, and most importantly, share that knowledge and share your success with others. Don't be selfish.
That's
Don't walk around like I got mine, you got to get yours. Just help each other.
There you go.
I helped so many veterans with this type of stuff. I've helped I helped a Vietnam veteran get service connected. He didn't know. Come to find out, he got a fat check.
There you go.
I
I mean,
wasn't
that's
jealous. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't hateful because what
happy for him.
what the Most High do for me, He'll do for anybody, and what He do
Yeah.
for you, He'll do for me too. So, got to get out that selfish mindset that is just for you. No, it's for us. It's for every single one of us.
There you
Every
go.
single one of us who served, made a sacrifice, getting yelled at 4 a.m, getting mosquito bites the size of golf balls on your skin, or getting bit by poisonous vectors out there, or getting shot at, or inhaling gases, or taking those prophylaxis that now your body's not working right, or now your hearing is gone. Just like they got the Camp Lejeune water thing. I found a lawyer he's willing to come to as many veteran organizations he can come to help Camp Lejeune victims. This is what it's all about. Just like your show. I appreciate this show, Mark, because without this, veterans don't have a voice.
Well, there you go.
Leave it at that.
That's a great way to wrap it up right there. So
Hoorah.
Great message. Great some points there from Dr. John Taylor. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us. Are you on the road to improvement with your hands and everything after PT? I hope you're getting better.
I'm on the road to feeling better about myself.
Good.
This ongoing pain that I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life is going to the grave with me. But like I said, I took my training very seriously, so pain is weakness leaving my body. I don't mind, so it don't matter. I keep on pushing.
There you
I
go.
can't let one thing keep me down when there's a whole lot of other things for me to get into and make happen.
There you go. Keep on pushing, right?
I had to raise them 3 boys by myself, and look what they did. They end up veterans themselves. I got one in the Army, one in the Marines, and my last one, he graduated, and he's saying he's going to the Air Force. That's how much I made the impact of being a veteran in my community and my family. I made it possible for people not to be afraid that, the reality of veteranhood exists.
Well, so many great points this week on the podcast. Keep on pushing, I think, was the last one, so we'll leave with that. And we're going to leave some information right here. So if you need some help and you'd like to reach out, we've got some resources for you. So stay tuned. We're going to play this or play that right now for you. If you've got some questions or need some help, reach out to an organization like Voice and Vision or ComputerCore, and we're going to have that information pop up right now. Thanks so much, Dr. John Taylor, for your time on the podcast.
Rob, thank you.
Absolutely. And we'll be back with another episode of Untold Valor. You've been listening to Untold Valor by Voice and Vision. We hope you found the information and resources discussed today helpful. As always, thank you for listening and for your support. Remember to stay connected with us through our various social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to visit the website, voiceandvisioninc.org. That's voiceandvisioninc.org, where you can sign up for our blog and find free resources and information on upcoming events, webinars, workshops, and get support. You can also access our free help and hope guide for individuals and families struggling with substance use and addiction. If someone you know is struggling, please reach out for help because you and your life matter. Remember, the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available to you at any time by dialing 988. We are all ambassadors of hope and recovery, and if you want to share your story, please contact us. ComputerCore is also looking for veteran mentor volunteers and veteran participants. To find out more information about ComputerCore, please call 610-541-0790. That's 610-541-0790. You can find all the links and contact information for the resources mentioned on today's episode by checking the description and the show notes section of your app. Thank you again for tuning in and for your support. Until next time, this has been Untold Valor.